You might not believe this really happened to me. Even now, sitting here 18 months later with scars that prove every word, I sometimes wonder if I dreamed the whole nightmare. But the divorce papers, the bankruptcy filing, and the titanium mesh holding my ribcage together are pretty solid evidence that sometimes real life makes fiction look boring. The day I discovered my brain tumor was the same day I caught my husband of 12 years planning my funeral with his mistress, my own sister. And that wasn't even the worst betrayal I'd face in the next 6 months. I know how insane that sounds. Trust me, if someone had told me this story 2 years ago, I would have called them a liar. But before I continue, if stories about real human resilience matter to you, please hit that like button and subscribe. It takes you 1 second, but knowing someone out there cares enough to listen helps me process trauma that 3 therapists said was unprecedented in their practice. Your support literally helps me heal by proving I'm not alone in this. My name is Sarah, I'm 38, and until January 2023, I thought I had everything figured out. Marketing director at a tech startup in Austin, married to Derek, who worked in medical device sales, mother to twin boys aged 10. We'd just bought our dream house in Westlake Hills. You know, the kind with the limestone exterior and the pool that looked like it belonged in Architectural Digest. I was training for my 5th marathon. Life wasn't perfect, but whose is? Derek had been working late more often, sure. My headaches were getting worse, absolutely. But I chalked it up to stress from the promotion I'd just landed. The headaches started subtly that previous November. Just pressure behind my right eye during particularly long Zoom calls. I'd pop 2 Advil and power through. By December, I was downing bottles of Excedrin like they were Tic Tacs. You need to slow down, Derek would say, though he barely looked up from his phone when he said it. What I didn't know yet was that he was texting my sister Emma those nights, planning their future in my house with my life insurance money. January 15th was a Tuesday. I remember because I'd just presented our Q1 strategy to the board and absolutely crushed it. Walking back to my office, the fluorescent lights in the hallway started strobing, or at least that's what it looked like to me. Then the floor tilted. I grabbed the wall, thinking I'd stood up too fast. The next thing I knew, I was staring up at concerned faces while someone kept saying, "Don't move, we've called 911. The EMT was this young kid, couldn't have been older than 25, with a thick Texas drawl. "Ma'am, you just had a seizure," he said while shining a penlight in my eyes. "We're taking you to Seton Medical." I tried to argue. I had a 3 o'clock with investors, but he gave me this look I'd see a lot over the next months. That mix of pity and professional distance that medical professionals perfect. Derek didn't answer when they called. Neither did Emma, though I didn't think much of that at the time. My assistant Hannah finally reached him 2 hours later. He showed up looking flustered, shirt untucked, claiming he'd been in back-to-back meetings. The chemical smell of Emma's perfume, Chanel No. 5, our mother's favorite that she'd inherited, clung to his jacket. Funny how your brain files away these details for later, like it knows you'll need evidence when your world implodes. The ER doctor, Dr. Patel, ordered a CT scan just to rule things out. Those words should come with a warning label. I lay in that tube listening to what sounded like a jackhammer while trying not to think about the last time I'd been in a hospital, when the boys were born. 10 weeks premature, fighting for their lives while I hemorrhaged on the operating table. We'd survived that. We could survive anything, right? Dr. Patel came back with a different expression. Gone was the casual reassurance. "Mrs. Morrison, we found something concerning on your scan. We need to do an MRI with contrast for better imaging." The way he wouldn't quite meet my eyes told me everything. Derek's hand found mine, and for a moment, I thought maybe we'd be okay. What I didn't know was that he was already calculating how long he'd have to play the supportive husband before cashing in. The MRI revealed what Dr. Patel delicately called a mass approximately 4 centimeters in diameter in the right temporal lobe. He referred me to Dr. James Hoffman, supposedly the best neurosurgeon in Central Texas. The earliest appointment was 3 days away. 3 days to Google every possible outcome, to stare at my sleeping children and wonder if I'd see them graduate, to notice how Derek couldn't quite look me in the eye anymore. Emma came over the night before my neurosurgery consult. She brought wine and tissues, held me while I sobbed about mortality and motherhood. "I'll take care of the boys if anything happens," she promised, stroking my hair the way Mom used to before the car accident took her 5 years ago. "Derek's useless with emotional stuff, but I'll make sure they remember you." The way she said it, so matter-of-fact about my death, should have been my first real warning. Dr. Hoffman's office was on the 15th floor of the medical tower, all glass and chrome and desperate attempts at calming colors. His assistant had me fill out 20 pages of forms, while Derek paced, taking calls he claimed were urgent client issues. Dr. Hoffman himself looked like he'd been sent from central casting. Silver hair, kind eyes, steady hands. He pulled up my scans on a massive monitor and pointed to what looked like a golf ball of chaos in my brain. "Glioblastoma multiforme," he said, each syllable a nail in my coffin. "Grade 4. We'll need to confirm with a biopsy, but based on the imaging and your symptoms progression, I'm 90% certain. We should operate within the week to debulk as much as possible, followed by radiation and temozolomide." He kept talking about survival rates and quality of life, but all I heard was 18 months median survival. 18 months if I was lucky. Derek's first question wasn't about my chances or treatment options. It was about cost. "What's the out-of-pocket looking at? Our deductible's pretty high." Dr. Hoffman's assistant mentioned something about financial counseling, payment plans. I was calculating how many birthdays I'd miss while my husband was checking our coverage limits. The biopsy was scheduled for that Friday. Thursday night, Derek said he had to fly to Dallas for an emergency client meeting. "It's the Henderson account, baby. If I land this, it'll cover whatever insurance doesn't." He kissed my forehead, the kind of kiss you give an elderly relative. Emma volunteered to take me instead, playing the devoted sister. "Here's the thing about brain surgery. You're awake for parts of it. They need to make sure they're not destroying essential functions." So I was conscious when Emma walked into the prep room wearing Derek's college sweatshirt, the one I'd bought him for our first anniversary. Conscious when she squeezed my hand and said, "Whatever happens, I'll make sure the boys are okay." Conscious when I noticed she was wearing my mother's wedding ring, the one that had gone missing from my jewelry box 2 months ago. "Where did you find that?" I asked, morphine making me bold. She looked down like she'd forgotten she was wearing it. "Oh, Derek found it. He was going to surprise you after your surgery." The hesitation was barely noticeable. If my brain hadn't been in hyperdrive, cataloging every detail for what felt like my last days, I might have missed it. 3 weeks later, I'd understand why she hesitated. The surgery lasted 6 hours. They removed about 70% of the tumor, Dr. Hoffman said, which was better than expected. I woke up with a railroad of staples across my skull and the strange sensation that words were hiding just out of reach. The steroids they gave me to control brain swelling made me feel like I could conquer the world while simultaneously destroying my body from the inside out. Derek brought the boys to see me 2 days post-op. Mason and Mitchell, my beautiful, terrified 10-year-olds, stood in the doorway like I might shatter. "Mom's okay," Derek told them, though his voice suggested otherwise. "She's going to be fine." Mitchell, always the brave one, asked if my hair would grow back. Mason wanted to know if I'd still be able to come to their soccer games. I promised them both, knowing I was probably lying. Insurance approved the radiation and standard chemo protocol. 30 sessions of targeted radiation and 12 cycles of temozolomide. What they didn't approve was the tumor-treating fields device Dr. Hoffman recommended, calling it experimental, despite FDA approval. $60,000 out of pocket if we wanted it. Derek said we'd figure it out, but I caught him on the phone with our financial advisor that night, asking about life insurance beneficiaries and expedited payout procedures. Radiation started 2 weeks after surgery. Every weekday at 2 p.m., I'd lie on that table while they bolted a mesh mask over my face, positioning me to the millimeter so invisible rays could burn away what the scalpel couldn't reach. The techs, Rosa and Marcus, became my unexpected anchors. They'd play my requested music, usually Texas country that reminded me of college, and count down the minutes with me. The burns started during week 3. Not on my skin at first, but inside my brain. Inflammation that made thinking feel like swimming through concrete. Words disappeared mid-sentence. I'd stand in my kitchen, unable to remember how to make coffee in the machine I'd used every morning for 5 years. Derek grew impatient. Emma was always there to help, essentially moving in while I became a ghost in my own home. Then came the hair loss. Not gradual, but in clumps that clogged the shower drain. I stood naked one morning, handfuls of my own hair like some horrible offering, while Derek brushed his teeth beside me. He didn't say anything, just swept the hair into the trash and went back to his morning routine. Emma brought me a selection of wigs that afternoon, all coincidentally styled like her own hair. "We could be twins," she said, and something in her voice made my radiation-damaged brain scream danger. Week 4 of radiation, I had my first follow-up MRI. The tumor had shrunk by 20%, Dr. Hoffman said, which was encouraging. Derek seemed disappointed. That night, I heard him on the phone in the garage. He thought I was knocked out on Ativan. "No, she's responding to treatment. I don't know, maybe 6 months, maybe longer. We can't wait that long. The boys will adjust." I should have confronted him then, should have demanded answers. But the next morning brought grand mal seizure number 2, this one in front of the boys at breakfast. Mitchell called 911 while Mason held my head, both of them crying as I convulsed on our Italian tile that Derek had insisted we needed. Emma arrived before the ambulance, already dressed and made up at 7 a.m., like she'd been waiting for the call. The radiation oncologist, Dr. Chen, adjusted my anti-seizure medications and added more steroids. My face ballooned into someone unrecognizable. My joints ached like someone was driving nails through them, but the tumor kept shrinking. By the end of radiation, it was 40% smaller. "Remarkable response," Dr. Hoffman said. Derek's jaw clenched at the word remarkable. Chemo started immediately after radiation ended. Temozolomide pills that cost $800 per day, even with insurance. 5 days on, 23 days off. The first cycle wasn't terrible. Some nausea, fatigue. I even went back to work part-time, zooming into meetings with my wig and carefully applied makeup. My boss, Kevin, was supportive. "Take all the time you need. Your job will be here." It was during cycle 2 that I found the emails. I'd grabbed Derek's iPad by mistake, trying to join a video call. His Gmail was open, and there it was. A message from Emma with the subject line, "Can't wait much longer." My finger hovered over it. Some part of me knew that opening it would change everything, but I was already living on borrowed time. What was one more loss? The thread went back 3 months, starting just before my diagnosis. Plans to be together. References to "when this is over." Emma writing, "The boys already love me like a mother." Derek responding, "The house is worth $1.2 million, plus her life insurance is $500K. We can start fresh." The last email, sent that morning while I was vomiting from chemo. "Dr. H says she's responding too well. We need Plan B." My hands shook so violently I dropped the iPad. It cracked on our perfect Italian tile, spiderwebbing like my life. I sat there on the bathroom floor, bald and bloated, reading proof that my husband and sister weren't just having an affair. They were waiting for me to die. Hoping for it. Planning for it. I screenshot everything and emailed it to my personal account before Derek could delete it. Then I called my college roommate, Julia, who was now a divorce attorney in Houston. "I need you to come to Austin," I said. "Bring your nastiest partner. This is going to get ugly." That night at dinner, I watched them. Really watched. Saw how Emma served Derek first, how their hands brushed accidentally. How the boys gravitated toward her for homework help, while Derek scrolled through his phone. How she wore my mother's perfume and my grandmother's bracelet. How comfortable she looked in my chair, in my life. "How was treatment today?" Emma asked, cutting Mitchell's chicken for him, something I'd always done. "Remarkable," I said, using Dr. Hoffman's word deliberately. "The tumor's still shrinking. Dr. Chen thinks I might be one of the exceptional responders." Derek's fork clattered on his plate. Emma's smile tightened. "That's wonderful," she managed. I started recording everything after that. "Texas is a one-party consent state for recordings," Julia had reminded me. Every conversation about my treatment, every discussion about finances, every moment they thought I was sleeping off the poison they were so disappointed wasn't working fast enough. Cycle 3 of chemo brought peripheral neuropathy. My fingers and toes went numb, making it impossible to type. Kevin from work called to check in, but really to tell me they were restructuring. "We'll convert you to consultant status. Better for everyone considering—" He didn't finish, but the message was clear. Derek had already called him, discussing my declining capacity and preparing for the inevitable. The medical bills started arriving like an avalanche. Even with insurance, we owed $60,000 and climbing. Derek suggested we take a second mortgage on the house. "For your treatment," he said, though I found the paperwork later that put the loan proceeds into an account only he could access. Emma helped me organize the bills, shaking her head sadly at each new total. "Such a shame the American healthcare system is so broken," she said, as if she weren't actively trying to benefit from it. During cycle 4, I developed pneumonia. My immune system, destroyed by chemo, couldn't fight it off. I spent 8 days in the ICU at Seton, machines breathing for me while Derek made arrangements with Emma that he thought I couldn't hear. "Power of attorney kicks in if she's incapacitated for 10 days, he whispered. "Dr. Hoffman won't declare her incompetent yet, but if she gets worse—" But I didn't get worse. My body, apparently too stubborn or too angry to die, fought back. The pneumonia cleared. The tumor continued shrinking. By cycle 6, Dr. Hoffman was using words like exceptional and remarkable, unironically. Derek started drinking more. Emma started spending nights at our house to help with the boys, though I heard her in our bedroom after Derek thought I was unconscious from Ambien. Julia came to visit during cycle 7, officially as a concerned friend, actually to document everything. She took photos of Emma wearing my jewelry, videos of Derek discussing my prognosis with neighbors while painting me as essentially dead already. She found the credit cards Derek had opened in my name, maxing them out on purchases I'd never see. She discovered the meetings with financial planners about estate distribution and survivor benefits. The breaking point came during cycle 8. I'd had a good week, energy up, nausea controlled. I even drove myself to treatment, feeling almost normal despite the alien reflection in the mirror. When I got home early, Derek's car was in the garage, but the house was quiet. Too quiet. I found them in our bed, the bed where our children were conceived, where I'd recovered from my C-section, where Derek had promised in sickness and in health. They didn't hear me at first. I stood in my own doorway, watching my husband and my sister in my bed, and felt something break that had nothing to do with cancer. When Emma finally saw me, she didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. "Sarah, you're home early." Derek scrambled for covers, for words, for anything. "Baby, we didn't mean, your treatment has been so hard on everyone." I said nothing, just took out my phone and started recording. "Please continue. Julia needs this for the divorce filing." That got their attention. Emma stood up, wearing my robe, the one Derek bought me for our 10th anniversary. "Sarah, be reasonable. You're dying. The boys need stability. Derek needs a partner. I'm trying to help." "By fucking my husband in my bed while I'm at chemotherapy?" Derek found his voice, and with it, apparently, his audacity. "You're not the same person anymore, Sarah. You're sick all the time. You can't be a wife, a mother. Emma's been more of a mother to the boys these past months than you have. Because you've been poisoning them against me." I pulled up the recording I'd made of Emma telling the boys that Mommy might not remember things right because of her brain tumor, and sometimes sick people get confused about what's real. The next hours were a blur of screaming, packing, and phone calls. Derek tried to claim I was having a psychotic break from the brain tumor. Emma called 911, telling them I was dangerous. When the police arrived, I was sitting calmly at my kitchen table with Julia on speakerphone and my medical records spread out, showing my most recent cognitive assessment, completely normal. Derek and Emma were the ones who looked unhinged. I filed for divorce the next day. Derek countered by trying to have me declared incompetent. The boys, confused and manipulated, didn't know who to believe until Julia showed them the emails, the recordings, the credit card statements. Mason threw up. Mitchell didn't speak for 3 days. Child Protective Services got involved when Emma tried to pick them up from school claiming I was medically unable. During cycle 9 of chemo, while fighting both cancer and a custody battle, I developed a severe allergic reaction to temozolomide. My throat closed in the infusion chair. Rosa, my radiation tech, who'd started volunteering at chemo, saved my life with an EpiPen while Derek was in court, arguing I was too sick to care for my children. Dr. Hoffman had to switch me to a different protocol, lomustine and procarbazine. More toxic, less studied, but my only option. The new chemo was brutal. I lost 40 pounds in 3 weeks. My blood counts dropped so low, I needed transfusions. The neuropathy spread up my arms and legs until holding a pen was impossible. Derek used every hospitalization to file new motions about custody. Emma moved into our guest house, to be close to the boys, though the restraining order I'd filed should have prevented it. Then came the infection that almost killed me. Not cancer, but MRSA from a contaminated IV port. My temperature hit 104.8. I hallucinated my dead mother telling me to fight, that Emma had always been jealous, had always wanted what I had. In my delirium, memories surfaced. Emma trying on my engagement ring when Derek proposed. Emma suggesting she be our surrogate when we had fertility problems. Emma always there, always watching, always waiting. I spent 2 weeks in isolation, bacteria eating through my body, while lawyers ate through my assets. Derek had frozen our joint accounts. Insurance was threatening to drop me for excessive claims. The hospital social worker gently suggested I consider hospice. Everyone was giving up except Julia and, surprisingly, Kevin from work, who'd discovered Derek had been sabotaging my projects for months, telling clients I was no longer capable. When I finally left the hospital, 20 pounds lighter and barely able to walk, I found Derek had changed the locks on our house. My boys were inside with Emma playing mother. The police wouldn't help. Derek showed them paperwork that I was too sick to realize was forged. I slept in my car that night, the same luxury SUV we'd bought to celebrate my promotion, parked outside my own home like a stranger. Julia worked magic with an emergency hearing. The judge, a woman who'd survived breast cancer, saw through Derek's performance immediately. She ordered him to vacate the house within 24 hours and granted me temporary full custody pending investigation. The look on Derek's face when the police escorted him out was almost worth the agony of the previous months. Almost. But the victory was hollow. The boys were traumatized. I was dying, and the bills kept coming. $300,000 in medical debt. The house in foreclosure because Derek hadn't made payments in 6 months despite taking the second mortgage. My job gone, insurance about to lapse. Even if I beat cancer, I'd lost everything else. Cycle 11 of the new chemo cocktail nearly shut down my kidneys. I made the boys promise that if I died, they'd live with Julia, not Emma. Mitchell held my hand with his 10-year-old fingers and said, "You're not going to die, Mom. Bad people live forever, and you're good, so you have to live longer to balance it out." The logic of children. During what was supposed to be my final cycle, scans showed something impossible. No visible tumor. Not shrunk, not controlled, gone. Dr. Hoffman ordered repeat scans, different machines, second opinions. All confirmed complete remission. "I've seen this maybe 3 times in 30 years, he said. Derek, who'd been copied on my medical emails per court order, contested the results, actually arguing to a judge that I was faking remission. The divorce trial was scheduled for the same week as my end-of-treatment scans. I testified for 6 hours, bald and skeletal but alive, about the affair, the theft, the attempted medical and financial murder. Emma took the stand and actually said, "I was trying to prepare for the inevitable. Sarah's being selfish by prolonging everyone's suffering." The judge's expression could have frozen hell. Derek's attorney argued that my brain tumor made my testimony unreliable. Julia countered with 18 months of recordings, emails, and bank records. The forensic accountant she'd hired found Derek had stolen over $200,000, including draining my 401k and the boys' college funds. He'd taken out life insurance policies on me with himself as beneficiary without my knowledge. He'd been slowly poisoning me with unnecessary medications Emma provided from her job at a pharmacy. Medications that caused symptoms mimicking tumor progression. The judge didn't just grant the divorce. She ordered Derek to pay full restitution, granted me sole custody, and referred the case for criminal prosecution. Emma was arrested at the courthouse for attempted murder. Turns out she'd been adding methyl mercury to my supplements, hoping to speed along my decline. The bottle was still in her purse, labeled as B12. Derek's medical device company fired him when the arrest made the news. His clients, mostly oncologists who knew my story, blacklisted him. Emma lost her pharmacy license and faced 15 years in prison. The house sold in foreclosure, but Julia helped me file bankruptcy to clear the medical debt. We moved to a 2-bedroom apartment in a decent school district. The boys and I started therapy with someone specializing in medical trauma and family betrayal. It's been 18 months now. I'm still in remission, though I scan every 3 months and hold my breath until results come back clean. The boys are healing. Mason made the honor roll. Mitchell joined the robotics club. We don't have much, but we have each other and the knowledge that we survived something that should have destroyed us. Derek lives with his mother in Plano now, working retail. He's allowed supervised visitation once a month, though the boys usually find excuses not to go. Emma took a plea deal, 7 years with possibility of parole in 4. She writes me letters I don't open, though her prison therapist called once to say she's working through her jealousy issues stemming from childhood. As if that excuse is attempting to murder your sister for her life. I returned to work last month, not at my old company, but at a non-profit helping cancer patients navigate treatment and finances. My salary is half what it was, but my soul feels cleaner. My hair grew back different, darker, curlier, like it's celebrating its second chance. The neuropathy is permanent. I'll never run another marathon. But I'm alive to embarrass my boys at school pickup, to make terrible dinner jokes, to exist in defiance of everyone who bet against me. Sometimes I meet other brain tumor patients at support group who apologize for complaining about their struggles because mine were so much worse. I tell them pain isn't a competition. We're all fighting our own versions of impossible. The difference is I had to fight two cancers, the one in my brain and the ones in my life disguised as love. The other day, Mitchell asked if I ever regret fighting so hard to survive. If you'd known about Dad and Aunt Emma from the beginning, would you still have done treatment? I told him the truth, yes, but for different reasons. Not to save a marriage that was already dead, or to preserve a family that was poison, but to show my boys that sometimes the best revenge against people who want you dead is to stubbornly, defiantly, brilliantly live. My oncologist says I'm a medical miracle, but I know better. I'm just a woman who is too angry to die, too stubborn to let them win, and too in love with my children to leave them with wolves. The brain tumor was never my biggest threat. It was the people who claimed to love me while plotting my funeral. But here's the thing about surviving what should have killed you. It teaches you that you're stronger than any disease, any betrayal, any carefully orchestrated attempt to erase you. I still have brain scans that show where the tumor was, a ghost of what tried to kill me. I keep them next to the divorce decree and the arrest warrants, all proof that I survived multiple attempts on my life. Some were biological, some were personal, all were supposed to be fatal. Yet here I am, scarred and strange, but breathing, rebuilding from ashes that everyone assumed would be scattered by now. The boys and I have pizza every Friday now, a tradition we started in our tiny apartment. We toast with root beer. Mason always says, "To Mom, who wouldn't die." Mitchell adds, "Even when everyone wanted her to." We laugh because it's true and because laughing beats the alternative. We're not the family we were supposed to be, but we're the family we fought to become. Broken but bonded, wounded but winning, alive against all odds and all enemies. Dr. Hoffman calls me his miracle patient. Julia calls me her toughest client. The boys call me Mom. I call myself survivor, but not the inspirational kind you see on motivational posters. I'm the messy kind who sometimes cries in grocery stores when I see sisters shopping together, who still checks Derek's social media from a fake account just to see him failing, who takes perhaps too much satisfaction in Emma's mugshot being the first Google result for her name. Recovery isn't pretty. It's not linear. Some days I feel grateful to be alive. Others, I'm furious about what living cost me. But every morning I wake up is another day Derek and Emma didn't win. Another day my boys have their real mother. Another day I exist as proof that sometimes the universe bends toward justice, even if you have to grab it by the throat and force it to. People ask if I've forgiven them. The honest answer is no. Forgiveness is for people who made mistakes, not for people who tried to murder you with mercury while you were fighting brain cancer. What I've done is release them from taking up space in my daily thoughts. They're footnotes now in a story about survival, cautionary tales about trusting too easily, loving too blindly, and missing the snakes in your own garden. The last time I saw Derek was at Mitchell's soccer game last month. He stood across the field, alone, watching his son score a goal and look immediately for me, not him. Emma's mother approached me afterward, crying, asking how I could let her daughter rot in prison. I told her the truth. I didn't let Emma do anything. She chose to poison me, chose to steal my life, chose to bet on my death. The prison part was just consequences finally catching up. Next week marks 2 years since my diagnosis. Dr. Hoffman wants to write about my case for a medical journal. the patient who survived glioblastoma and attempted murder simultaneously. I agreed, with one condition. They include the whole story. Not just the medical miracle, but the human tragedy. The betrayal that sometimes hurts worse than brain surgery. The fight that extends beyond operating rooms into courtrooms and custody battles. The boys and I are planning a trip to Hawaii with the life insurance payout from a policy I didn't know my mother had left me. The one Emma had tried to claim as next of kin while I was in the ICU. It feels poetic, using money Emma tried to steal to create memories she'll never be part of. We'll scatter some of Mom's ashes there. The mother who loved me versus the sister who tried to kill me. I still have bad days. Seizures occasionally. Memory gaps that might be from radiation or might be from trauma. But I'm here. Breathing. Fighting. Living. Every day Derek wakes up in his childhood bedroom and Emma wakes up in a cell is another day I won. Not because I'm vindictive, but because I'm alive to know about it. The truth is, cancer wasn't my biggest battle. It was just the one with better medical documentation. The real fight was against people who smiled while planning my funeral, who held my hand while poisoning my supplements, who promised to care for my children while trying to steal them. Cancer, at least, was honest about trying to kill me. But I'm still here. Still fighting. Still refusing to be a convenient tragedy in someone else's love story. My boys need their mother, and I need them to know that sometimes the hardest battles aren't against diseases, but against the people who are supposed to love you. They need to know their mother didn't just survive cancer. She survived everything and everyone who tried to bury her. That's my story. Every unbelievable word of it true, documented in medical records and court transcripts. I know it sounds like fiction, because fiction has to make sense, and nothing about betrayal by your husband and sister while fighting brain cancer makes sense. But sense was never the point. Survival was. And against all odds, all enemies, all attempts, I survived. The anger keeps me warm on cold nights. The injustice keeps me fighting on tired days. And my boys, my beautiful, resilient boys, keep me grateful that I was too stubborn to die, when dying would have been so much easier than living through this truth. Some stories don't get happy endings, just endings where the right person is left standing. This time, finally, that person was me.